before I get started on this video, I'm going to be making 3 videos. This one is obviously going to be about the Antifa manifesto. The next one will be about the Democrats and how bad they're doing this, and of course Justin Trudeau and Angela Merkel trying to get on Trump's back. And finally, because it's the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing, I'm going to be talking about space policy currently that's been going on with the Trump administration. So here it is. I said before a week ago when the attack on the ICE facility in Tacoma, I said before that it was completely abhorrent and it was evil. And it's just showing that Antifa is completely... they're the monsters that they are trying to fight against. And it's very disconcerting that not only does the media not ignore this, but a lot of people either do not denounce it. I'm talking to you, AOC and the squad, or just simply praise it. You're encouraging the idea of left-wing terrorism against anyone who might disagree with you. You have done that before. And you know it has been a good example many times before. And it just... It's completely abhorrent to me as a conservative. And in fact, it's not just it's not just to conservatives as well. It's also to liberals. I recall last time that there was a photo that actually showed graffiti by an Antifa member saying that liberals get the bullet too. You kind of know how these people stand. So, without further ado, I'm going to be talking about the manifesto. That was apparently sent to the newsletters such as the Seattle Times, Washington Post, and etc. What follows is the written manifesto of Willem von Sprassen. There's wrong and there's right. It's time to take action against the forces of evil. Evil says one life is worth less than another. Evil says the flow of commerce is our purpose here. Evil says concentration camps for folks deemed lesser are necessary. The handmaid of evil says the concentration camps should be more humane. Beware the centrists. Okay, so that's the first paragraph. So let's go down into it. There's wrong and there's right. That I can agree with you. But this guy, who happens to be affiliated with Antifa, is a known anarchist, and is pretty militant, by the way, especially considering that from what we saw with what happened to Tacoma. I wouldn't think that he has a good perspective on what's right and what's wrong. I really don't. Because considering that he was willing to attack people, not just ICE, but even the illegal immigrants who were detained there, he was willing to go out of his way to cause not only damage, but to possible harm. Hell, he had the rifle, aside from Molotov cocktails, he had a rifle on him, and I'm pretty sure if given the opportunity, he would have used it. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. Excuse me. It's time to take action against the forces of evil. The fact that he's saying that obviously means that it's a call to violence. Okay, supports his own actions. And yet, he doesn't realize that there are other ways to fight against supposed evils. Take Project Veritas, for example. These guys exposed CNN for the whole Russian collusion BS, and even went on to even expose Google not just for their liberal bias, but also for their censorship as a big tech company, and even trying to, quote, prevent the next Trump situation. Again, there are many ways to peacefully do this. And as long as it's peaceful and that you have the moral high ground, you probably will get the public on your side. Antifa obviously isn't, despite the praises. I'm pretty sure the praises are from people who obviously still supported Antifa ever since it was created back in 2016, I believe. Evil says the flow of commerce is our purpose here. What? Evil doesn't say that. Unless last time I checked, that's what economics is saying. And it's an important thing too, because the flow of commerce is what actually helps communities grow. It doesn't make any sense to claim that evil is doing this. It's there are places, other communities that have different kinds of resources, such as say Seattle and what would be a good idea? Dallas. I'm just gonna use Dallas. Dallas has oil, but however, unlike Seattle, it's not on the coast. It's more inland. So when it needs some other place in order to ship out the oil, in order to gain some substantial customers. Now Seattle is a coastal city and it doesn't have oil. So considering its both economic dispositions, they make out an agreement. Thus, the oil is distributed. So again, how is that evil? That is only encouraging the growth of communities. It's just none of this none of this makes any sense. It only shows his naivety. The Handmaid of Evil says that concentration camps should be more humane. There have been so many debunks about the whole detention centers thing. The reason why they're having problems is because more and more people, such as the Democratic Party in its current form, are giving more incentives for people to illegally migrate in this country. Don't take my word for it. In their Democratic debates, everyone from Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang to Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders raised their hands supporting the idea of giving free health care to illegal immigrants. Of course, they say undocumented immigrants, but everyone knows that they're illegal. And finally, beware the centrists. Obviously, this guy doesn't care what anyone says, and he's not willing to make any kind of compromises whatsoever. Continuing on. I have a father's broken heart. I have a broken down body. I have an unshakable abhorrence of injustice. And that is what brings me here. This is my clear opportunity to make a difference. I'd be angry to be waiting for an obvious invitation. So this only shows his mindset. It's more about feelings. And if he's using his feelings based upon what he's gained, especially from the mainstream media and people such as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who basically lie and insult people about calling detention centers concentration camps. I'm willing to bet that AOC and her squad, since they are continuing to put up this perception, would not be able to look into the face of those Jewish prisoners who survived, many of whom are still alive. So yeah, again, like I said before, that this shows his clear emotional state, how he's basing up the current information he has from these left-leaning groups is obviously controlling his emotional state, and that's why he went out and did his thing. And again, like you said before, the clear opportunity to make a difference, there's more than one way. Violence is the worst way, and it should be considered the last thing you should go to. It should be the last resort. Of course, I think that it's apparent that this guy used violence as a first resort rather than the last. I follow 3 teachers. Don Britt's my spiritual guide. Love without action is just a word. Don Brown's my moral guide. What is needed is action. Emma Goldman, my political guide. If you can't dance, I don't want to be in your revolution. His teachers just further makes this guy look more ridiculous. Now, I do not know about Don Pritz personally. I do not know what to think about his quote of love without action is just a word. But John Brown, who was an abolitionist, who wanted to attempt a slavery uprising and commit violence in doing such goals, and to to end slavery through that means. Again, it just shows this guy's mental state. And it scares me. The fact that he actually agrees with this idea. That of John Brown, a known violent abolitionist, was willing to take up arms, even if people who probably would have agreed with him against abolitionism, but would taken up arms against them because they believe in the idea of using peaceful means. And it's funny to say, that could have actually happened, because some people, especially in the South, some slave owners, and even some generals that served with the South, such as Robert E. Lee, and I think James Longstreet is also there, and even I'm not sure about Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederate States, but there was a belief that had the war not gone off the way it did, or maybe if the South had won, that in a few years, slavery would have just simply naturally go away. People would have just gone tired of it, and the economic model, just economic progress, would just take itself in. I don't know if that may happen, but now we cannot know for sure, and we have to live with the fact that 600,000 Americans, both Confederate and Union, are dead. Continuing on. I'm a head in the clouds dreamer. I believe in love and redemption. I believe we're going to win. I'm joyfully revolutionary. We should all have been reading Emma Goldman in school instead of the jingle drivel we were fed about, but I digress. We should all be looking for the photos at the YGB heroes. Should we falter and think our dreams are impossible? But I digress. Find me. Again, just his own mental state. He's a head in the clouds dreamer. He's apparently naive of the ways of what's going on. I believe in committing to the idea of dreams, of my own personal dreams, and even certain political ambitions, such as term limits for senators and congressmen and women, and that sort of thing. Just making a major difference. But here's the thing. Unlike him, I'm not naive of what's going on, or of what human nature is in store. I'm not naive enough of that. I know that there are bad people, I know there are good people, and I know there are people who fit mainly in between. And you have to toe a line in order to try to toe a line with these people in order to try to make it to your objective. That is that's the issue out here. That's at fault here. I believe in committing to dreams as well. But again, don't be naive enough that suddenly you think that you're doing something without thinking, or just being emotional about it, and suddenly everyone will just love you. I believe we're going to win, and I'm joyfully revolutionary. Again, just a lack of awareness. Antifa is hated by so many. Forget the far right. But look at the center right, the center, and the center left. They hate those guys. Tim Pool, a liberal, continually exposes them and denounces them for what they are doing. He's a liberal. And a gay Asian journalist was being attacked because he was a conservative. And he had a brain hemorrhage. If this continues on, I'm pretty sure that we won't need the National Guard or the U.S. military. The people would do it themselves, because the people do not like it when they're being attacked for some kind of different opinion. They don't. In these days of fascist hooligans preying on vulnerable people on our streets in the name of the state, or supported and defended by the state, in these days of highly profitable detention, concentration camps, I don't understand how it's profitable, because it's on the taxpayers' dime, you idiots. And a battle over the semantics. In these days of hopelessness, empty pursuit, and endless fury, we are living invisible fascism ascendant. I say visible because those paying attention watch it survive and thrive under the protection of the state for decades. See Howard Zinn, A People's History of the United States, how it unabashedly follows its agenda with open and full cooperation from governments around the world. So let me get this straight. You believe that fascism is rising because of the faulty information from the mainstream media, and especially a book by Howard Zinn, a very vocal left-leaning individual, or was a vocal left-leaning individual before his death. Yeah. You want to know something? One of my teachers in high school wanted me to learn from Howard Zinn's book because it was like a class requirement. Thank God I didn't, because when I looked into that, there was a library with a comic version of Howard Zinn's book. I glimpsed at many pages, and I was just like, this is completely bonkers. Because it doesn't really make any sense to me. It just doesn't. And while it's true that America has had not only hardships, but committed mistakes before in the past, what I saw in the book was completely and utterly ridiculous. It was more about communism and just imperialism, etc., etc., etc. It just, oh man. Continuing on, and we're still on the first page. Lord, I'm probably gonna lose my voice after this. Fascism serves the needs of the state, serves the needs of business, and at your expense, who benefits? Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Tim Cook, Bill Gates, Betsy DeVos, George Soros, and need I go on? Let me say it again. Rich guys who think you're not really all that good, really big government, everywhere, including communist governments, because they make rules that make rich guys richer. Simple. Don't overthink it. You want to know what the problem is with what he said? Fascism is very similar to what communism is. They basically want to control the means of production. While fascism also hates communism, they too believe in the idea of using the trying to use the means of production. However, they do that in completely different ways. Communists prefer to use it in the means of use it as a means of giving a more equal opportunity to the people, equality of outcome, which would not ever work out, because that would mean trying to make unequal things equal. And in the words of Aristotle, that is the the worst inequality to ever exist, according to Aristotle. So, both fascism and communism control the means of production. The difference, like I already told about communism, but for fascism, they are using production as a means of spreading influence and their own goals. In the case in point, Nazi Germany, they were building up arms, munitions, military weapons, all that shit in order to conquer Europe and to eliminate the ethnic peoples along the way. Which actually leads me to another thing as well. They actually discriminate, both communism and fascism. Communism, their kind of discrimination is more economic. They hate the rich. and they want to bring them down. And they even believe in the idea of a proletarian dictatorship in order to accomplish that. Even those people, the rich, who happen to support their own goals. In the case of fascism, and this is also true to an extent for communism, because Stalin established programs that and even executed several Jews and Christians within the Soviet Union, I might add. Fascism is more of an ethnic discrimination kind, and fascists prefer to focus on the idea of the pure human being. I would like to say, in the case of the German fascists, it was Aryan, blonde eyes, not blonde eyes, blonde hair, blue eyes. Even those who were missing one or the other, they were considered Aryans. Everyone else were put into different classes below them. And apparently at the very bottom were the Jews. And a few others, like communists, Poles, gypsies, homosexuals, etc., etc., etc. So, I don't see a real difference there. And it's just funny how this guy doesn't understand it. And especially when he put in just in quotes, communist governments. I bet this is just implied, oh, those weren't real communist governments. No, they were communist governments. And that was the result. You reap what you sow. You made your bed, now lie in it. But I doubt any communists would understand that. Because in their mind, it's a utopia. A utopia which will never, in fact, ever be achieved because it doesn't take into account human nature, both the good and the bad, the love and the greed, the selflessness and the selfishness. It doesn't take into account for that. Continuing on the second page. Are you patriots in back paying attention? That's in quotes, and that's at the very top. When I was a boy in post-war Holland, later France, my head was filled with stories of the rise of fascism in the 1930s. As promised myself that I would not be the one of those who stands by as neighbors are torn from their homes and imprisoned for somehow being perceived as lesser. You don't have to burn the motherfucker down, but are you just going to stand by? That's kind of rich coming from a guy who tried to set a nice facility on fire. You don't have to burn the motherfucker. That's really rich. And I think that the fact that he was born in post-war Holland and later in France kind of helped him develop this ideology to an extent. But to be fair, I'm pretty sure that there were also people who lived in post-war Holland and France who were right-wing and thought the same way as this guy did, but still kept their conservative values and believed in the idea of peaceful resistance. So yeah, I'm not. So yeah, I can't really. So yeah, I just think that that was more of what laid the foundation for him. This is the test of our fundamental belief in real freedom and responsibility to each other. This is a call to patriots too to stand against this travesty, against everything you hold sacred. I know you. I know that in your hearts you see the dishonor in these camps. It's time for you too to stand up to the money pulling the strings for every goddamn puppet pretending to represent us. I'm willing to bet that the patriots that he's talking about are not American patriots, but more communist patriots, the people who are more inclined to be loyal to the ideology, not to the nation state, but to the ideology of communism. I wouldn't be surprised if that was actually what he was talking about. And real freedom, just wow, that is completely rich. near 70-year-old dude who was living in the freest country in the world, who has unique freedoms, which could not be taken away from him, and were unique to this country. And he's saying that quote, this is a test of our fundamental belief in real freedom and our responsibility to each other. And I have to laugh at that last part. Our responsibility to each other. Last time I checked, communists are more into the idea of taking no responsibility whatsoever. They just want to get everything free. I'm a man who loves you all, and this spinning ball so much that I'm going to fulfill my childhood promise to myself to be noble. I say you fail on that part, my friend. Considering that you try to kill people and you try to burn out building, and I want to make another thing known, because he says that he knows people because in their hearts. If that's the case, then apparently he's mixed someone up, because I never knew this guy. I know it's not taken to be literal, but still. And he's just speaking for a minority of people. A very, very, very small minority of people. Here it is. In these corporate for-profit concentration camps. How is it for profit when it's the taxpayer paying for all this crap? How is it for profit? Is it for, like, human trafficking? Because for the last time I checked, that's what the cartels do, not the U.S. government. You should be mad at the cartels, not the American government. Despite their many flaws, that is not one of them. Here it is, in brown and non-conforming folks afraid to show their faces for fear of the police, migrant Proud Boys, the boss hecklies. Here it is, the plan almost used up by the market screen. Oh my god. Identity politics at its best. Because it's also talking about brown people and people of color. Which, by the way, I have to say, I hate the term people of color so much. I really do. It's completely different from white and black people. Because while the first words are completely different, white and black, the last one is always the same. People. Despite being black or African American, they're still human beings with the same dignity and courtesy that they deserve. People of color makes it seem more, I don't know, like they're alien or something. Like they're completely different from the normal human being. Which is why I hate that term so much. Because overall, it develops the idea of a superiority or an inferiority complex, because they're being treated as if they deserve this, and it's an entitled sort of thing. Okay, here we go. I'm a black and white thinker. Detention camps are an abomination. I'm not staying by. I really should have a say any more of this. Black and white thinker. Despite the fact that there are people who have the qualities of both good and evil. I'm not saying it's wrong to have a black and white sense of morality, but just keep in mind why for one, why people do it, because honestly, it's more complex than people might think, because there's in some cases where a thief might steal certain things, like bread, for example, and while that alone is a criminal offense and should be punished, it's in the case sometimes in the case that he or his own family may be starving and he cannot find a proper job. So it's very complex. Sometimes the idea of a black and white kind of thinker is okay to an extent, but just make sure there are three sides to it, to what's going on in real life. There's always the good, there's the bad, and always people in the middle. You want to take that back? I think it's more to evolve instead of a black and white think. Instead of having a black and white mentality, it should be a black, white, and gray mentality. That way, it should be able to understand people's motivations a lot better. I set aside my broken heart, and I heal the only way I know how, by being useful. I officially compartmentalize my pain. I joyfully go about his work. To those burdened with the wreckage of my actions, I hope you will make the best use of that burden. This guy, not only is his mentality and his mental state sick, but from what I'm reading in this letter, he sounds really selfish. In my own opinion. Here's why. I set apart my to those burdened with the wreckage of my actions, I hope that you will make the best use of that burden. So he's willingly putting a burden on people, even when they have no need for that burden, or if it's a justified kind of burden. It's on those people's burden nonetheless. And I just have to say, with the first three sentences, how he's compartmentalizing his pain and just going about his work and trying to be, in his own terms, being useful. This only shows that he was a ticking time bomb. Oh my god. I swear to God, I'm doing a lot better than the media at just debunking this more times than I can count. To my comrades. Sorry, I just had to sound Russian for a moment. I regret that I will miss the rest of the revolution. Thank you for the honor of having me in your midst, giving me space to be useful, to feel that I was fulfilling my ideals, has been spiritual pinnacle of my life. Doing what I can to help defend the precious and wondrous people is an experience too rich to describe. My trans comrades have transformed me, solidifying my conviction that we will be guided into a dreamed of future by those most marginalized among us today. I have dreamed so clearly that I have no regret for not seeing how it turns out. Thank you for bringing me so far along. And it's near the end. It's getting close to the end. More identity politics BS. So, yay. Trans comrades. And people who are marginalized. Just create a society by them. Despite the fact that that's not really the case. In the United States at all. If you were to look at the Middle East, that would be a completely different story. But not here in America. And even if there is, people have the opportunity to expose that, to change it in a way that where it makes it useful, or where it could be more of a tolerant society, and a society that it would include everyone. So, here we go. I am Antifa. I stand with comrades around the world who act from the love of life in every permutation. Comrades who understand that freedom means real freedom for all and life worth meaning. Keep the faith. All power to the people. Bella Xiao. Don't let your silly government agencies spend money investigating this one. I was radicalized in civic class at 13 when we were taught about the Electoral College. It was at that point that I decided that the status quo might be a house of cards. Further reading confirmed in the positive. I highly recommend reading. I am not affiliated with any question. I have disaffiliated from any organization who disagree with my choice of tactics. The semi-automatic weapon I used was a cheap, home-built, unregistered Ghost AR-15. Had 6 magazines. I strongly encouraged comrades and incoming comrades to arm themselves We are now responsible for defending people from the predatory state. Ignore loss of army yourself if you have the luxury I did. And so that is the end of the manifesto. And for the last part, I'm just going to say, wow. Just, wow. He was radicalized in civics because someone told him about the Electoral College and how apparently he thinks it's bad and stuff. And his reading. What exactly did he read? Am I honest? Karl Marx, Engels, something. So probably any book that had to deal with the left-leaning parts of politics, especially in American politics, and probably even communist stuff. That I'm pretty sure that's what he read. So that's not really good. That's not a real good way to expand your knowledge, because you would not be able to have a dialogue or understand the situation itself without talking to the other side. I personally decided to do that because when I was in one of my classes in, I think it was Green River Community College, I was supposed to buy a copy of the Communist Manifesto, and I was supposed to read it. Now, what I found was completely stupid, especially with taxing the rich, getting rid of land property, the proletariat dictatorship. That alone was what set me off from just saying, screw this crap, I'm out. And the fact that he's only calling on further rebellions and further terrorist attacks to happen is just insane. Again, you can obviously see the mental state of this guy just from the perspective of this manifesto, which I will be putting in the description, by the way. The fact that people are not talking about this, like the media or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her squad. The fact that there are even people online praising this guy is concerning. It really is, because I don't think that this is the last we've seen of left-wing terrorism. It happened before with the formation of the Weather Underground and, of course, the Symbionese Liberation Army. So I don't think that is going to come to an end. I think there's a potential of it escalating. I think that it's just going to continue on. Maybe it'll be something similar to what happened to Annie No. I don't know. Or it could go even further, which I pray it does not happen. I really pray, but in reality, I do not see how well this might work out. I really do not. So, but before I get off, I want to tell you some good news. Just as a result of what happened to Andy No and, of course, the Tacoma attack, Ted Cruz, along with Senator Hockley, I think his name is, proposed a resolution to the House of Representatives stating that Antifa should be designated as a domestic terrorist organization. So that alone is good news. And I will also put in a link to that resolution down below in the description. The fact that, while it is true that there is some praise by far-left activists and leftists over this attack, and even just the lack of response from officials such as AOC at Ilhan Omar, is concerning. But I have very good faith in people, because throughout the entire community, I've been seeing a lot of people just denouncing this attack, not just from the right, but also from the left, or at least the sensible left. At this very moment, both the sensible left and the right are condemning this atrocity that I'm gonna say. Although, to be fair, that I don't think that's the best word to use, because no one has been hurt. Thank God. And considering what's the many the outlets in the alt media, and especially a few other ones in the mainstream media. Thankfully, there are just a few who are still reporting on this. It gives me hope because it's turning public opinion away against Antifa more and more by the day. And I do not think that they will have enough for their supposed revolution to happen. In fact, I pray that because of their own stupidity, their revolution ends before it ever even began. My name is Noemi and the Arc Truth. Please post your comments down below, like this video, subscribe, and share with your friends. Also, if you have any criticism about my videos, just be sure to put them in either the comment section or just message me in them. And final thing, remember, I'm going to be making another video about the current situation as the fallout of Trump's tweet continues, and in response to the 50th anniversary of landing on the moon. I'm going to be talking about what is in the future for the United States in terms of space. Thank you.
Almost heaven, West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain.